Shalom, Holy Blossom. The address I gave on Sunday at the annual general meeting is entitled, Jewish Life Finds a Way. In the last 3 weeks or so, I've noticed that we have crossed another threshold of restoration and recovery, and today I want to name it and celebrate it. In case you missed the AGM, here are the words that I shared. Judy Toker is the talent and volunteer who curates what we call the Living Museum, the large display in our Schwartz-Reisman atrium. That's where we can tell our stories of Jewish history through family heirlooms and artifacts. So if you have an object or a document that tells a story of Jewish life, we'd love to include it in our future exhibit. Everyone seems to have something. What treasures are in your china cabinet or your keepsake drawer? Currently, the Living Museum features black and white etchings, prints, and woodcuts, which depict Jewish life from the 16th century in Turkey and 17th century Portugal. The life of a Jewish merchant selling textiles and the life of a Jewish physician, recognized by his tall hat. Those stories are told in Old French, recently translated by Cy Strom, one of the editors of our prayer book. And the scenes from Portugal depict a wedding, the birth of a baby, a funeral processional, Yom Kippur in the synagogue. And these images came to us as gifts long ago from Rabbi Plout of blessed memory. Why do I share this with you now? Because these thin-lined images on yellowing paper act as evidence that Jewish life finds a way. Those Jews faced hardships, trials, and threats that we can only begin to imagine, and yet they endured with courage and commitment. There have been days and nights when I wondered how we would get through. Leading Kol Nidre services in an empty sanctuary filled with nothing but a camera was, I admit, one of the most painful and frightening experiences of my professional life. There were moments when we could only ask, like the ancient psalmist, Ad matai, ad ma, how long, O God, how long before we can live a full expression of Jewish life again? How long before generations of family can gather around the Shabbat and Seder tables again? How long before we can visit the dying and bury our dead with dignity? How long before we can dance a hora with brides and grooms and toss a bar mitzvah child up on a chair? In the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, I've noticed that something has shifted. There was an ordinary Sunday that was extraordinary. Some of us gathered at Holy Grounds Cafe to meet with MP Carolyn Bennett, who represents this neighborhood in Parliament. And we saw the regular hustle bustle of Holy Grounds Cafe. If you haven't yet enjoyed it yourself, come check it out 6 days a week. It's open for business. And on that Sunday, we saw religious school students and parents and teachers coming and going. And then a screen went up so that someone from Camp George could show a video and encourage families to consider camp for the coming summer. The Judaica shop was open, and some of the volunteers there were selling a talit to an upcoming bat mitzvah. We had the JIAS exhibit, Jewish Immigrant Aid Society, on the second floor, and some non-members were coming and going to check out the exhibit. And then our extraordinary volunteer librarian, Caroline Ingvelson, was pushing her library cart across the floor, and our teenagers were giving out flyers to encourage people to come for their Yala Gala to raise funds to help subsidize their March break trip to Israel. And then the ukulele group, led by Susan Baskin, started to come down the spiral staircase. And all this animation of our Schwartz-Reisman atrium was extraordinary. And it struck me. It's happening. We did it. Jewish life has found a way. Congregational life is once again taking on a rhythm of its own. And I said, my own private Shehechianu, praise be the one who has given us life, who has sustained us, and who has enabled us to reach this moment. Last Shabbat, the Mishkan was packed to celebrate Rabbi McCarroll's installation and to welcome back Rabbi Tomasho, who was here for the occasion. Extra chairs had to be brought in, and the band was playing joyfully and soulfully. Rabbi McCarroll's parents from Australia were zoomed in onto the screen so that they could light candles together with her in real time, despite all the time zones. Past president and current chair of our Temple Foundation, Joan Garson, came over to me, a little verklempt, and I whispered to her, "We got it back." And she whispered back, "We got it back better." So yes, we have new conclusive evidence that Jewish life finds a way. But here's the thing. It isn't abstract, and it isn't magic. It isn't even only God's blessing that keeps us the eternal people. It's leadership. We find the way. And that is what we are acknowledging and indeed celebrating on this day of our annual general meeting. I am extremely proud of and confident in the sacred partnerships we have among our lay and professional leadership. We are grateful for the congregant donors who have seen us through with guidance and with gifts of all sizes. This week, I found another delicate treasure here at Holy Blossom. There's a little rabbinic library by my office. Some of the books there are very old, and I don't know why, but I pulled down a thick, untitled volume from the shelf the other day. It was a threadbare chumash, and I did what many of you do, I know. First thing, we open up to see if there might be an inscription on the inside cover, and indeed there was. Lo and behold, there was a handwritten name, Edmund Scheuer, and there was a date, 1915. Edmund Scheuer was the grandfather of Canadian Reform Judaism. He served and led this congregation as well as Anshe Shalom in Hamilton with distinction. He was ambitious in his religious convictions and serious about educating the next generation of Canadian Jewry. We have an impressive portrait of him, which, thanks to Judy Winberg, past president and now member of our Temple Archives Committee, will be hung once again now in our Bloomberg Jewish Leadership Center, so that we can take inspiration from him and how he brought a modern Judaism to Canada, rooted in Torah and mitzvot while responsive to the values of our people in every age. Yes, Jewish life finds a way because of people like Edmund Scheuer and our immediate past president, Avra Rosen. And this is where I'll conclude. I've always known that congregations depend on the commitment of volunteers, and it takes time to build back our volunteer base. That is what we're doing exactly now. Volunteering at Holy Blossom Temple ought to be meaningful and uplifting and enriching and fulfilling. So if you're ready to step back in or to discover for the first time what meaningful volunteer time can be at Holy Blossom, I encourage you to reach out to Abigail, our Director of Membership, or to any vice president across the departments, or to any rabbi or cantor, and we will do what I like to call matchmaking between your unique interests and skills and the unique needs of the congregation. And in recent years, I've come to understand that there is a difference between congregational volunteers and congregational leadership. Leadership is also enriching, fulfilling. It should be interesting, challenging, and fun. Leadership also sometimes requires doing the hard thing, the necessary thing, carrying the burden, the weight of the congregation, being the shock troops when hard hits come unexpectedly. Any past president of Holy Blossom Temple will tell you that they too navigated interesting challenges and that the rewards were still greater than the challenges. But perhaps only Leo Frankel, who served as president of Holy Blossom Temple from 1908 to 1928 during the flu pandemic and a world war, can really understand what Avra Rosen has been carrying throughout her presidency. Our congregation, the Toronto Jewish community, and the Reform movement owes Avra a debt of gratitude for her courageous leadership. While steering her own law practice through the demands of the pandemic, her generosity for our congregation throughout her extended 3-year term is without measure. She is the very definition of calm under pressure, and I am grateful for Avra's partnership and for her friendship. Holy Blossom Temple has certainly been strengthened by her commitment and by her protection. May this sacred congregation continue to go from strength to strength. Shabbat Shalom.